certainly this morning, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for us to have Roy Cooper at our convention. All of you know that Roy Cooper has filed to run for governor of the state of North Carolina and be in the election both in March and certainly if he makes it through the primary into November. At this time, I offer our podium here at this 80th annual meeting to our Attorney General, Roy Cooper. Roy, come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you to the members of the Farm Bureau for inviting me this morning. As a state legislator and as Attorney General, I have relied on the advice of people at the Farm Bureau. I've had many discussions with my longtime friend Larry Wooten and Julian Philpott and Peter Daniels and others who have helped my staff and me make decisions that affect the farming industry. And I'm grateful that you all would be here to take your time to volunteer your efforts to come together to try to work for what is right. I'm grateful for Farm Bureau insurance. When I was little, Larry, I had Farm Bureau medical insurance and still have liability insurance on our family farms and are grateful for the good friends that I've made here at Farm Bureau over the years. I did grow up in Nash County. I grew up working on the farm. I started very early, taking off sticks and handing tobacco at 9 years old. Then as I got older, I cropped it, I topped it, I chopped it, I put it in, I took it out, I suckered it, I hung the bottom, I hung the top. Top's hotter, but the top's easier. Don't have to do as much at the top. But I worked in tobacco every single summer until I went to college. I learned how hard it was. I learned the hard work. I learned the dedication, and I learned that I really wanted a job with air conditioning when I grew up. And I'm grateful to the people of North Carolina for giving me that opportunity. My mom and dad started me off early, and when I became Attorney General, I often joked that they had violated numerous child labor laws, but you know, kids need to work, and kids need to learn how to work, and a farm is a great place to get that done. I also got the taste of being an agribusinessman when I was young. I earned money cropping tobacco, got paid by the hour, saved it, and decided that I was going to invest in hogs. So I was a teenager. I was growing hogs down in the woods, had 40, 50 of them, and had to keep my balance sheet about how much I was investing, and then the pork prices just started going down. So I started losing money, and look, my younger brother had invested in cows, and he was doing pretty good. Beef prices were all right, so I'm gonna get out of this hog business. Sold my hogs and got into the cow business. Well, my brother decided he was going to buy low in the hog business, and so guess what happened? Pork prices went up, beef prices went down, and my brother has continued to hold that over my head. So then when I got to be 16 years old and got my driver's license, I decided I was going to make a lot of money. I was going to farm me an acre of watermelons. An acre of watermelons is a lot. So I got it all ready. My fertilizer, did my planting and all that. And then I was being the smart businessman. I started visiting the grocery stores around. I grew up in Nashville, right outside of Rocky Mount. Started going to see them. Said, I'm going to be having these watermelons. And they, yeah, we'd be interested in taking them. Well, they came off late. Had a tough summer there, and they came off late. But they came off fast. And by that time, the trucks from Florida had already been up and had given these grocery stores that I had talked to earlier all the watermelons that they had needed. Sorry, son, we just don't need them now anymore. And I'm stuck with hundreds of watermelons. I'm standing out in front of the courthouse selling them 3 for $5 and doing everything I can to try to make up what money I had invested in it. And I will never, ever forget the smell of rotting watermelons as they were lined up on the porch. And I think at the end of the summer, this figure varies in my mind, but I know it was well over under $100. It was like $23.17 or something that I cleared. I figured that agribusiness was not my forte, and I'll tell you this, I admire the people who battle the weather, who battle the commodity prices, who battle the governmental regulations, battle the difficulty in getting labor, and still work every single day to put food on people's table and to provide good jobs for the people of North Carolina. I appreciate that, and having grown up like I did, I appreciate it even more. And in growing up in Eastern North Carolina, I learned about values. I learned about hard work. I learned about helping each other out. I learned about communities coming together. And I am grateful for the values that my parents gave to me. They gave me the value of loving our soil, our land, and our state. My family, we've traced it back at least 7 generations of Eastern North Carolina farmers there in Nash County. They taught me the value of a dollar, and carrying that into my public career, we know we've got to be very careful with taxpayer dollars and invest them in the right way. My parents taught me that you had to value a dollar and make sure you invested it properly. My parents gave me a deep faith in God. They taught my Sunday school lessons when I was a kid, and I in turn taught the Sunday school lessons of my 3 daughters as they were growing up. And I am grateful for that deep and abiding faith that they gave to me. They also taught me the power of public education and the opportunities that it can give to everybody. I know what our state has done over the years. When we think about education in North Carolina, we think about education not only being our state constitution, but in our DNA as a people. Even back in the 1700s, the people of North Carolina looked up north to the Harvards and the Yales, and we said, you know, we want those kinds of universities, but we want universities of the people so everyday people can go and supported by the public. And North Carolina was the first state in this country to open its doors to higher education supported by the public. And our 16-campus university system and our 57-campus community college system is one of the best, if not the best, in the country. North Carolina State, one of our great land-grant institutions who make sure that they are doing the research to help farmers, and University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill researches in science and biology. It's incredible what's happening with education. But I'm grateful that I got that opportunity for public education in this state. My parents did, and my 3 daughters did. My mom was a public school teacher, and I'm so proud of the work that she did over the years. As Attorney General, I go many places, and I talk to a lot of people. I enjoyed talking to some of you all this morning. But every once in a while, someone will come up to me and say, I want to pay you a compliment. And I'll think, well, they're going to tell me what a good job I'm doing as Attorney General. They'll say, your mama was the best teacher I ever had. And you know, they're all over this state. That shows you the power of education. It shows you the power of one teacher assistant, one principal, one teacher in a community college, one college professor that can change a life. That's important. I grew up in the public schools in Eastern North Carolina, and my claim to fame, I have to today tell you my claim to fame. It is not being Attorney General of North Carolina. My claim to fame, I went to the county school. I didn't go to the Rocky Mount City School. I went to Northern Nash High School. But our rival was Rocky Mount, the city school. And they had a pretty decent basketball player by the name of Phil Ford. I think you all remember Phil Ford, National Player of the Year, went on to become a great pro, and he was a year ahead of me at Rocky Mount, but they were our rivals. Well, I'm excited to tell you all today that my claim to fame is that one Friday night in the Rocky Mount High School gym, I, Roy Cooper, blocked Phil Ford's shot. I am so proud of that. I'm so proud of that. Phil got 52 points that night, but he did not get 54, I can tell you that. And finally, Phil has admitted it publicly. He'd been hearing about me telling this story about me blocking his shot, and finally he admitted it publicly. I don't think he really remembers it, but he did say so publicly. I know this has overall not been a particularly good year for you, for the farmers. A wet spring, a really dry summer, way too much water and rain in the fall. Bad weather cycles are really tough, and you all have to face them too often. Lower commodity prices and higher costs also make it difficult. I think your organization here, the Farm Bureau, is doing a good job to help farmers navigate all of that and to get them help and focus on the future. Government needs to help smooth the way for better farming environment and new and expanding markets. I think you and I, particularly in the tobacco industry, have seen so many changes. Some people don't believe this, but I can guarantee you it is true, because I have to get some debates with some of you older gentlemen. But I cropped 2 rows and I cropped sand lugs. And I put those sand lugs in a wooden cart that was drawn by a mule. And we put it in the barn, and we took it out early in the morning, and we graded it sometime. And then we took it to the tobacco market and we sold it, and we just couldn't wait to find out how much we would get from those piles of tobacco. And everything has changed, everything. We had quotas, and we dealt with all of that. But now you've got a completely new way of harvesting tobacco, and it's cured and sold in a completely different way. And therefore, many people have had to just simply get out of the business. But there are many of you who have survived and who have continued to work to farm tobacco. And tobacco is important to our state. It's an important commodity, and it's important to our jobs. But also many of you have branched out into other areas, that, the corn and the soybeans and the sweet potatoes and the wheat, and some of you in the nursery business, and all kinds of things that are positive going forward. And it's important for all of us to stay on top of things and to make sure that we adapt. And I think the Farm Bureau can help you with that. And I look forward to continuing to support them. I've been grateful for you giving me this job as Attorney General. I've been honored. I've been elected for 4 terms. I've loved it. I've loved it because serving as Chief Law Enforcement Officer of this state, going after criminals, making sure the public is safe, standing up and protecting consumers, I've been grateful for that opportunity. When I became Attorney General in 2001 and got sworn in January or February of that end, by September 11, 2001, we had the 9/11 attacks. So very early in my career as Attorney General, we were faced from terrorist attacks from a foreign country. I want you to know that from that day, I have worked hard to keep North Carolina safe from terrorists. And in fact, in my office, we had investigators who worked closely with local and federal authorities to track down actual terrorist cells that were in North Carolina, and people now who were terrorists, who intended to commit terrorist acts, are in jail as a result of those investigations from my office. My office also helped put together one of the best what's called fusion centers in the country, which is still in operation today. And that fusion center combines local, state, and federal officials, representatives from many, many agencies who work together to filter terrorist threats and to help track terrorism in North Carolina. We all have to stand together as an American people and make certain that our country and that our people are safe from terrorist attacks. And I certainly pledge to you from this position that I will continue to do that. One of the things that I've done as Attorney General is to help train law enforcement officers on what is called rapid deployment. You remember the horrible shooting at Columbine High School in Colorado, where those boys went in and just started shooting people up indiscriminately. We found then that we had trained the training for the law enforcement officers who just got on the scene wasn't the training that they need. They had been trained to surround and contain, and that was usually a hostage situation. But when you had an indiscriminate shooter, somebody who was just out to hurt and kill people indiscriminately, there needed to be a different response from law enforcement who was the first on the scene. And so we trained all the law enforcement officers in North Carolina in rapid deployment so that they would be trained to recognize the situation, and if there's an indiscriminate shooter, even the first or second person needs to take action to protect the public. I went around a lot of these trainings and talked to the law enforcement officers, and I told them, I said, here we go again. I would talk to them individually. For not very much money and for not many benefits, we're asking you to learn one more thing to put your life on the line. To a person. Those men and women in law enforcement would tell me, I'm ready, I want to learn, I want to be there to save people if that's my calling at that time. I am so grateful to the men and women of law enforcement and our emergency responders in North Carolina who work hard and put their lives on the line every single day to keep us safe. I thank God for them every day, and I'm grateful. You know, that training actually helped in several situations. One, you had a young man in Orange County, North Carolina, who murdered his father, loaded rifles, and put them in his car. He even had some pictures of classmates that he had put on the dashboard. Went into an Orange County school, started firing that gun into the school and walking toward the school. The school resource officer and a highway patrolman, both of who had been trained in our rapid deployment training, took action. They subdued that young man. Nobody was seriously hurt or killed. The next morning, I called one of the sheriff's deputy, the school resource officer, to congratulate him on his bravery. And he stopped me. He said, it was the training. We were ready. We knew what to do. That's why it's important to make sure that we train our officers, that we get the very best and the brightest to be officers in North Carolina. And as I continue my job as Attorney General through this next year, I look forward to continuing to make sure that our law enforcement is as strong as possible. And I'm going to keep standing up for consumers as well. I've often had to fight the big payday lenders, the big banks, the big utilities, the pharmaceutical companies, the car manufacturers. When everyday working people are done wrong, I'm going to stand up for them. I've continued to do that as Attorney General and will continue to do that. You can go to our website at ncdoj.gov. It stands for North Carolina Department of Justice. If you've got a consumer complaint, you can file it. You can also talk to some of our consumer specialists. We're working very hard to protect people from identity theft, to protect people from scams and frauds. If you have, for example, a civic club or a senior center or a place where you would want some of my people to come and put on a program about how to protect yourself, then let us know that. We want to come, and we've got several people who come out and give speeches and help to do that. North Carolina, I think, is at a crossroads. I'm concerned about the direction that our state is heading, and particularly in the area of putting more money in the pockets of everyday working people, supporting small businesses, and supporting public education. I think our state is falling down on the job, and we need to do better. In North Carolina, our teacher pay has dropped. It was once 20th in the country. Now it has dropped to 42nd in the country. In North Carolina now, we rank last in the South in per pupil expenditure for our public schools. There are cuts to higher education, our community colleges and universities. I believe that public education is the ladder of opportunity for everyday people, and we've got to work to put more money in the pockets of everyday working people. Also, what's hurting everyday middle-class North Carolinians is the tax structure. You have now leadership in our state that is very busily cutting corporate taxes, doing corporate tax giveaways, mostly to benefit out-of-state corporations, while at the same time cutting back on public education and expanding taxes on the middle class and the working poor. You got the elimination of the earned income tax credit. You got an elimination for a year of medical deductions that were helping seniors significantly, and I'm glad the public rose up and said we can't do that anymore. And then you've also seen an expansion of sales tax. Next time you go get your car fixed, you're going to pay more money. And who has to get their car fixed but working folks oftentimes who drive older cars? That's not fair, and that's not right. I also believe, and this is an issue where we are fighting right now, I believe that North Carolina should take and accept the billions of dollars, billions with a B, that has already been decided. It's a federal policy that Medicaid expansion can come to the states. We should take those billions of dollars that come into North Carolina for 100% federal dollars to ensure over 400,000 North Carolinians with Medicaid expansion, many of them working, many of them seniors. Not only will it help protect them, but it will create tens of thousands of good-paying jobs, and the statistics show that those of you who have to pay private insurance premiums, you're going to get a boost on your premium because that will come in and to help take care of some of the indigent population. Many of you may be, the good thing about farmers is that you're always active in the community, you're active in churches. A number of you may be county commissioners or local officials. You all know how important this Medicaid expansion is to rural hospitals, some of them operating on the brink. It's important to our medical school at East Carolina University. So I believe that it's important that we make sure that we expand that. We've got to have more help for our rural areas, more infrastructure. The Rural Center, I think, helped provide some of that infrastructure and help, and we've got to be creative in making sure we bring good-paying jobs all over our state of North Carolina. And we got to create a good environment for small businesses to thrive. I think it's important that we keep looking for these big companies to bring them into North Carolina and try to expand, but the better paying jobs are going to come from small business. They're going to come from startups, and we've got to create an environment where small business can thrive in North Carolina and we could get the good paying jobs. Now, one thing I know is that people are tired of the gridlock, they're tired of the hyper-partisanship, and I think they want leaders who will stand up, not afraid to reach across party lines, to solve problems and to do good things for our state. And I've got a track record of doing that. I was the Senate Democratic majority leader in the late 1990s when the House was Republican. And we rolled up our sleeves and we found win-win solutions reaching across the aisle. And I'll tell you, folks, in North Carolina right now, it's not just Democrats who are upset. It is many unaffiliated and many Republicans who think that North Carolina has gone too far off the cliff and that we need common sense government ready to move forward. I want a North Carolina that works for everyone and not just the select few. And that's why I'm going to be running for governor. I want your help and support. I've been grateful to farmers all across North Carolina over the years for your help. I'm going to be asking for your help again. I look forward to meeting with each and every one of you. I'll be here a little while before I have to leave to talk to some of you out back. Also, look forward to continuing to stay in touch with your staff to make sure that we've got everything we need to move our state forward. I'm very grateful, and I want you all to know this one thing before I leave. North Carolina is better than this. I believe that 2016 will be a critical election for our state. I hope you consider it. Number one, you also, in March, need to push this bond issue. I'm a strong supporter of this bond issue. What's happening at North Carolina State with plant sciences is critical, and I'm glad Farm Bureau is getting behind that effort, and I think it's important that we encourage people to get out and vote for it because it will help improve our economy. I'm grateful for the attention, the time you've given me, and grateful for all that you do in our communities in North Carolina. Thank you so much for letting me be with you today. Take care.